Primary sources are an important aspect of historical research. But what exactly is a primary source? How is it different from a secondary source? In this presentation, we will look at both primary and secondary sources with examples of both. I will focus more on primary sources and why they are so important when you are researching an historical event such as participants crossing on the overland trails. First off, what exactly is a primary source? According to the University of Washington at Tacoma, a primary source includes documents or artifacts created by a witness to or participant in an event. Primary sources can be first-hand testimony or evidence created during the time period that you were studying, or they are created at a later date by a participant in the events being studied, as is the case with a memoir. Primary sources are very different from secondary sources. A secondary source, according to the University of Washington at Tacoma, analyzes a scholarly question and often uses primary sources as evidence. Secondary sources are generally one step removed from the event and are often based on primary sources. Examples would include scholarly or popular books and articles, reference books, and textbooks, just to name a few. Now, let us look more in depth at some examples of primary sources. Primary sources may include diaries, personal journals, letters, interviews, oral histories, photographs, newspaper articles, government documents and records, court records, property records, military reports, military rosters, poems, novels, plays, music, and many other things. It is important to remember that, yes, there are many digital primary sources which are readily available, but the majority of primary sources have not even been digitized yet. Why should you use primary sources? Are there benefits to using primary sources? And if so, what are they? According to the Library of Congress, using primary sources has 3 goals. 1, engage students and researchers. Primary sources help students and researchers relate in a personal way to events of the past and promote a deeper understanding of history as a series of human events. Because primary sources are snippets of history, they encourage students to seek additional evidence through research. First-person accounts of events help make them more real. This fosters active reading and response. 2, develop critical thinking skills. Primary sources require students and researchers to be both critical and analytical as they read and examine documents and objects. Primary sources are often incomplete and have little context. This results in students and researchers using prior knowledge and working with multiple primary sources to find patterns. In analyzing primary sources, students and researchers move from concrete observations and facts to questioning and making inferences about the materials. This also leads to questions of creator bias, purpose, and point of view, which may challenge students' and researchers' assumptions. 3, construct knowledge. Inquiry into primary sources encourage students and researchers to wrestle with contradictions and compare multiple sources that represent differing points of view, confronting the complexity of the past. Students and researchers construct knowledge as they form reasoned conclusions, base their conclusions on evidence, and connect primary sources to the context in which they were created, synthesizing information from multiple sources. Integrating what they glean from comparing primary sources with what they already know and what they learn from research allows students and researchers to construct content knowledge and deepen understanding. The collection and analysis of primary sources is central to historical research. Why do you believe that primary sources are central to historical research? According to the Library of Congress, primary sources provide a window into the past. This is important because primary sources provide you with unfiltered access to the record of artistic, social, scientific, and political thought and achievement during the specific period under study. These primary sources are produced by people who lived during that period. Primary sources also enable you, the reader, or you, the researcher, to get as close as possible to what actually happened during a historical event or time period. Let us now talk a little bit about a specific historical event in the United States, where primary sources are key to the event feeling real, or at least letting you, the researcher, feel like you are there with the participants. I lived in the Pacific Northwest and California, Nevada area for nearly half of my adult life, which has contributed to my long-held interest in the overland trails. This includes the Oregon Trail, Mormon Trail, Santa Fe Trail, and California Trail. I've spent a lot of time researching and reading through the diaries, personal journals, and letters of various participants on the trails. Reading through them has made me feel like I was there with them, riding in their covered wagons. These individuals chose to give up everything that was normal in their lives, to leave family and friends behind, to pursue an adventure to a place that they considered foreign, with an opportunity of a lifetime. When I read the letters that many wrote while they were traveling on the trails, it makes me feel like I am there with them. Many of the letters provide specific details, such as the risks they took while crossing a river, or the fear they felt when traveling through Indian territory. It is one thing to read a secondary source, such as a textbook, but there is nothing like reading a primary source in their own words. I would like to share with you original excerpts from a letter written on June 24th, 1848, by William Porter to his family back home. William's letter was written while he was waiting to cross the North Fork of the Platte River. Dear father, mother, brothers, and sisters, I wrote a few lines to you a few days ago, but lest they should not reach you, I will write as though I had not written at all. We are all well and getting on as well as common. Some of our company are a little discouraged on account of fatigues of the journey and the reports in reference to the Indians in Oregon. I have felt a little discouraged, sometimes, about the scarcity of grass, though our cattle look well. I would advise to bring no horses. Mules for working or riding do well. Get a good Mexican saddle. A common saddle, whether rode or not, would be of little value, even after coming this far. Bring plenty of good, strong rope. 500 or 600 feet will not be too much. There's a great deal of windy weather, and rains are generally accompanied with high winds. This is the fourth day we have been here waiting to cross the Platte. A small company of Mormon from Salt Lake are here with a canoe boat to cross the immigrants. They charge $1.50 per wagon. It will be 2 days yet till we can cross. Yesterday, a company of Mormons arrived here with their wagons and teams to assist their friends now on the road to Salt Lake. There is now a company in our camp from Oregon, just arrived. They say grass is very scarce on the route from this on, and it will be very difficult getting there. They came the southern route in consequence of the war with the Indians. Some seem to think it is very dangerous to go either route. Andrew Rogers was killed with the Whitman's family. It is thought the war will be brought to a close this year. If thought best, you may have this letter published, and I hope this may suffice for a letter to all whom I promised to write and all interested. Now, I don't know about you, but after reading that primary source, I felt like I was there with William Porter on the banks of the Platte River. That letter put a name to a participant risking everything for an opportunity. In my opinion, Primary sources are the best sources to use when researching an historical event. They help bring reality to the event. It is no longer a boring event from a textbook, but rather a real person who participated and risked their life not knowing what the next morning would hold. Thank you for watching my video. Have a very blessed day. And remember, God is great.